up Riley.
So, as Jai mentioned, I am a slam poet, but I decided that I was going to share a short story instead tonight, since I also consider myself a writer. So, this is called Coffee Shop Drama, and I wrote it a couple of years ago. What do you do with a girl like that? Brandon said as he slammed a ceramic coffee mug on the table. Bits and pieces of the coffee poured out and landed on the coaster. I brushed a piece of black hair away from my eyes and grabbed a rag. I started scrubbing before I offered my advice. You dump a girl like that, I said jokingly as I wandered over to the garbage can to throw away the dirty paper towel. Brandon glared at me, picked up his coffee cup angrily, sipping it, then throwing it back down on the table. That's not funny, Georgia, he said slowly, peering into his coffee mug as if it was about to explode. My best buddy Brandon was having a very hard time with his girlfriend Amber. She was all over him one day, then she was all over his brother, his friends, and even his sister the next. I was his go-to girl, the girl he complained to when Amber was off having one of her sescapades with somebody less deserving of her than Brandon. You really should dump her, man, I said in a more serious tone before taking my usual seat at the table across from him. Brandon's eyes seemed to solemn up as he breathed through his inflamed nostrils. You could see the stress was starting to get to him, and this time his heart may have been shattered more than it normally was. Maybe I should, but man, the days she's into me, those are just heaven, he said, slowly banging his head on the coffee table. I massaged the back of his neck slowly, biting down on my lip as I watched the stress take over his body. A few moments later, the table started to vibrate. It was Brandon's phone going off. Amber, as always. She was texting him with her petty apologies. Brandon and I scanned the text, and there were several loud sounds of angry clicking. He wasn't forgiving her, even though his body hadn't quite processed what he was forgiving her, even though his body hadn't quite processed what he had just seen hours before. See, I work at a coffee shop, and this is mine and Brandon's safe haven whenever Amber decides to pull another one of her sescapades, as I call them. Luckily, I was on my break when Brandon came bustling into the door asking for me. Brandon immediately started blabbering. Amber was with Robert, Brandon's best friend. According to Brandon, she looked like she had gone through quite a workout, but Brandon looked at Amber dead in the eyes and said nothing. As soon as Brandon was on his way to the coffee shop, Amber was texting her apologies, telling him it was an accident. She had a problem saying no to people. Brandon looked at the phone, never responded, just came in the coffee shop, all disgruntled, ordered a black coffee, and plopped down at her regular table. Should I dump her? Brandon said slowly as he exhaled, now peering at his phone, as if waiting for it to give him the answer. I stood up and began to clear the table, the scones, bagels, and others' comfort food as he continued to talk. You know how I feel, Brandon, I said softly, tossing the crumbs into the garbage and the place into the dishwasher behind the counter. Brandon sighed sullenly. But I already forgive her, he whined. I shrugged my shoulders and pulled my hair back into a ponytail. My break was just nearing its end, but Brandon would usually stick around until my lunch. Then we'd go out, grab some fast food, and come right back. However, Amber was always jealous of me. Not that she had any reason to be jealous. Brandon kept his cool while she was out with her quote-unquote guy friends and quote-unquote girlfriends. He never questioned her, even though she questioned him. His phone started to buzz now, longer than the text sounds. Amber was calling him. Shit, he said slowly before picking it up. Hello, he said gently in his soft and seductive, what I like to call boyfriend tone. He nodded his head, listened, smiled, told her he was with me, and that's when his boyfriend tone turned into irritability and just plain old anger. I had already stepped away at this point and was behind the counter, waiting for a few people to come in and make their orders. A few minutes later, Brandon hung up the phone, looked me in the eyes, and she said it's you or her, Brandon said, and plopped down at the table and began chugging his black coffee again. That's right.